Okay, so I think it's working now. Yeah, so welcome. This technology is working really fantastically for us, and thank you, Ekaterine, for helping me with that. But if you are joining us live, I'm really excited about what we're doing today. We're switching gears a little bit. Normally I'd be on here doing a training and I would have done it yesterday. But today we're starting our coach interview series. When I started this group a little while ago, I really wanted to set a place apart to allow emotional intelligence coaches and trainers or people that are considering moving in that area, a space where we could come and chat and remove all the other noise from coaching, all the different disciplines, etc. And we've got plenty of avenues where we can talk about that. However, what we want to do here is focus on emotional intelligence. So I'm mindful of my guest time, so I'm going to invite Ekaterine to join us, and hopefully this is going to work. So welcome, Ekaterine.
Welcome. I am welcome in these groups. I'm glad about it, and thank you for inviting me and starting out those coach series together with me. I was apparently quite lucky with this.
Fantastic. I'm just going to put my earphones in so we don't get any feedback going through the speakers, and hopefully that will work. All right. Well, if you are joining us live, then if you haven't clicked on the eCam button, it's not going to see your comments. So I'm going to need to shift backwards and forwards here to have a look. But if you are here, let us know you're here. Say hi. If you're watching this in the replay, which, by the way, Ekaterine, we know most people watch in the replay anyway. But if you are, then please say hello and let us know in the replay as well. All right, so are you ready to get started, Ekaterine?
Of course. I was very much looking forward to this pleasant morning together with you and this conversation as it unfolds. I do not know how it will unfold, although I'm in presence.
Yeah,
And
fantastic. Love it. Awesome. Well, hey, this is how we roll here. We don't want to make it too, rigid. I've got some questions that I'm going to ask you, and we'll do our best to stick with that. But we just really want to make sure that you get an opportunity to let us know more about you, to give us your perspectives on some things around EI coaching, and we can go from there. So let me just ask you the first question. Well, firstly, for those of you who haven't read the bio, Ekaterine is a PCC with ICF, professional certified coach, certified business trainer, and emotional intelligence practitioner. 9 years experience in training and coaching executives, teams in both business and the government sector. Very passionate about leadership development, organizational transformation, and she assists companies in implementing coaching and management style and transforming corporate cultures. So what I'd love you to do, even though I've sort of stolen a little bit of your thunder there, the first question is, tell us a little bit about your coaching journey and how you got into coaching and, what's been happening in the last 9 years.
Thank you for so much for this and for this first question. Although I would like to ask to start a little bit with the presence for Ukraine, because we know what is happening now in the world, and it is very close to me territorially, and it is very close to my heart because there are a lot of people that I know, the colleagues, and one of the pieces actually of my coaching career and training career also unfolded in Ukraine in a very beautiful way. So I would start today with Ukraine because most of my thoughts during the day and most of my attitude, what I do is around somehow Ukraine, when I do not coach between coaching sessions. And we will try in this part of the world, and the whole world is now united to help people in there. So I would like um, just to reiterate um, my presence uh, for Ukraine today. And I was thinking that uh, I have a friend. She's a writer. Her name also is Ekaterine, and in one of her last books, she said that the world is divided in two parts: people that have experienced war, and people that have not experienced war. And being a war child, I know that whether one experiences the war, you are never the same again. So, on the other hand, um, uh, there is a Georgian philosophist very famous in our country and beyond. He said that from going through the most intolerable experiences, we are born once again. And this time we're born in our essence as we are. So, in my view, this is what we're observing through the enormous courage of Ukrainian people. And once again, my presence and respect for that. So I wanted to start out with this.
Hey, look, no problems. As I said, we don't want to make this about that situation there, but I do understand where you're coming from. And seeing you've done that, I want to jump in as well to my, my Russian coaching friends, and say that my heart's with you as well. We're not going to get into talking about what's going on. That's not what this is about. But wherever you are in this group, wherever you're from, this is a safe place to talk about these things. This is a place of love. And I feel I've noticed a few comments going on backwards and forwards between some, coaches that are coming from, Ukraine and Russia and things like that. And I can understand it. It's not for us to judge what people are doing, but I feel for all people all over the entire area there with that. So let's switch gears a bit then. And we've talked about where you started as a coach. Why emotional intelligence? Why does that really, interest you? And why did you get involved with emotional intelligence in your coaching?
Hmm. When I started coaching, learning coaching, and straight away I started also to coach people. And what I noticed was that even being a beginner coach, I had very nice feedback coming and the results from the clients. And then when I went deeper and deeper, I understood that what I was doing there was basically down to the emotions, the emotion work. And whether it was, um, uh, and I have interacted with people around the world, and whether it was a leader or whether it was um, just a person seeking the purpose. Um, and setting the goals or the whole bunch of um, beautiful mind work. It was all about emotions, and whole emotional world inside us is happening all the time. And I have discovered that I was not that much conscious about it in that way before. And as I became more and more conscious, also I reaped the results of being respectful of your own emotions, being respectful of the emotions of others, and then I realized that I'm quite an empathetic person as well, and I received feedbacks that that you have this ability, you have this trait, yeah. Then it became very interesting, more and more interesting for me, because as emotional world, you start with some of, I call it emotional alphabets, with some of self-awareness and naming the emotion, and increasing your awareness about it. You start to be you are able to self-regulate more, and also to positively influence others more. Mm. And motivate yourself more, and all those uh, five key elements that Daniel Goleman puts as the elements of the emotional intelligence. So they unfold in more conscious ways, and then you have a choice. Then you have more choices, right? And this is how we all are independent, in a sense that we have a choice. So it gave me more independence, more self-assuredness, and more more of the ability to assist others as well in the best possible ways. So I started to study not only coaching, but to dive deeper into emotional intelligence. And at some point, when there is my colleague, dear friend, and she was like, "When will you do the emotional intelligence training?" She was very much, demanding on me. And then I thought that, okay, I will do this training. I will develop the methodology and the training as I see it. Although what I did, I took away all the books that I have read before about emotional intelligence, and I started to, deconstruct my emotions, and um, started to, remember, oh, that was, I have embarked on this, new level, and what does helped me, right? So I started to detect what did help me on my journey to develop emotional intelligence, and then I put it in some metaphors, algorithms, of course, what I knew from the world renowned authors. And then it came. So, emotional intelligence training. And it was very successful for us. That showed me that people needed it. And I also learned a lot along the way.
Yeah. Look, I love that. There's a couple of things you said there in particular. I loved how you said respect your emotions. There's so
Mm,
many, there's so many emotional intelligence gurus out there that still teach people to manage their emotions. They still teach people to, and what people see out of some of that is suppress them and ignore them. But I love how you say respect them, because emotions are who we are. It's a part of who we are. It's not something we can sort of put aside over there. Sometimes when people will say silly things like, "Oh, I leave my emotions at the door when I go to work." Well, no, you don't, because they're a part of who you are. So being able to
mhm,
respect the emotions, and then the term I like to use is navigate the emotion. Right. I loved how you also said to deconstruct, because we now know with the latest neurobiology, neuroscience, we know that we're not born with a reptilian brain that has 5 emotions there in our genes and all those sort of. We actually construct our emotions. Um, the other thing that you said that was great is, as you're going through your training, and this is certainly something that when I run people through my certification, that I always advise them to do. So I'm glad that you said it, and you didn't do my training. Is to go through it. I'm paraphrasing what you said, to go through it for yourself. So getting certified in emotional intelligence, the biggest gift for me when I did that and for my students is the change in myself. It's the awareness that I got, the new strategies that I got. And then, just like you said, and then help other people with it as well. Right. So
Mhm.
I think that this is why I'm so passionate about it. So I love that. It sounds like we're kindred spirits, which is why we're together today. So
Mhm.
you talked about Daniel Goleman and the 5 elements, and you and I talked about this other day. I mean, if we go back to the Salovey and Mayer, back before Daniel Goleman, 4-quadrant model, self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship management. Daniel came along in the late 90s and wrote a fantastic book, which if people haven't read, it's come out now in another edition. And he pulled out motivation and empathy and sort of changed it around a little bit. Not surprisingly, about 4 or 5 years ago, he's gone back to the 4-quadrant model. So he realizes that, pulling that out was a little bit, confusing. So just having that simple framework is what I love, to be able to help people realize that there's emotional intelligence, which is about self, and then there's social awareness, which is about working with others.
Mhm.
Now, I work with 26 different competencies of emotional and social intelligence. But my next question for you is, and you may want to answer it differently, uh, if you were to pick one of the competencies of emotional intelligence that you work with, which is your favorite to work with clients?
I would straight away say that self-awareness. Because for me, I believe for us, the people that assist and help other people to in their personal or professional leadership development, self-awareness is a meta competency. So what is meta competency? It is a competence that other competencies are then built on, right? So self-awareness is a skill that you can, that is very vibrant, that is always there for you. And if ever you do not know a certain algorithm of self-regulation or, whatever, motivation or etc., if you're self-aware in a moment, you will figure it out how you're going to regulate yourself.
Yeah, yeah, I love
And
it.
And this happened numerous times with my clients, They were my coaching clients, not the training clients. And I did not teach them those algorithms of self-regulation or, emotional control and etc. Uh, I was just coaching them, which contains, as we know, listening, not giving advice, and asking powerful transformational questions. And as their self awareness unfolded after, I would say I had 6 sessions, for example, with one executive, and self awareness began to unfold. And after 4 sessions, he himself told me that in the coaching session, the algorithm that I teach on the trainings.
So just to
That
just to
was
calibrate there, so you're saying algorithm. So is that like a strategy?
mm,
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, sorry, continue. Yeah.
yeah. So the strategy, yes, the instrument, the tool. So first, I ask this. Second, I ask then that. Then I, shift my focus to this. He told me that algorithm. And he said that I now realize that if I, when I'm self-aware, I can manage emotions in this sequence, right? And he told me this strategy. Then it has repeat. This experience has repeated itself numerous times when people, if their self-awareness rises and it unfolds, they find a lot of solutions for themselves, and I would say even more beautiful and tailor-made than we teach maybe in
Yeah.
the trainings. Because yeah, and also, what I very very strongly notice is that algorithms do not work. So strategies do not work without self-awareness.
Ah, of
You
course.
may teach,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's it's like therefore um, I do not teach. People usually ask me to teach them personnel, the staff, self-regulation. Uh, and I always, there's some conflict management
Yeah.
strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is the fifth pillar, the fifth element in the new model, actually, right? And it's a part of
Hmm.
social skills. And I say that, let's start with some self-awareness work. Let's let's do the homework first, and then it it will unfold, and then we can proceed with it, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly, exactly, and that's I have exactly the same experience, Ekaterine, where a company in particular, individuals as well, they'll want you to, Grant, can you come in and teach us communication, or can you teach us conflict management, or and I'll say to, I'm pretty sure you've probably done that sort of training before. I guarantee that the reason why you're wanting to do it again is that people aren't using it. Because
yeah,
if there's
exactly.
no basis built, exactly what you're saying, of self awareness, A, they don't have any understanding of what they're doing to sabotage the result anyway. And secondly, it doesn't make any sense. So that's why I love the four quadrant model. Okay, we start here in self awareness, we go to self management. Now we're ready to go and learn more social skills and work with others. So let's look at social awareness and learn about empathy and etc. And then we can get into those what are wrongly called in the corporate world soft skills. We can then get into those skills. So I totally understand and agree with what you're saying. And also with, and I'm just mindful of your time, and I know you had a couple of people that were joining that have to go to another workshop, so we'll keep to time. So what you were saying as well, I totally agree that self-awareness is meta, and everything else builds from that. And for me, my personal experience, I work with three competencies in self-awareness: emotional self-awareness, accurate self-assessment, and personal power. And for me, of all the 26 competencies, personal power is the one that I find underpins every other
Mhm.
competency. Because
Mhm.
without that sense of self confidence, self worth, setting boundaries, assertiveness, saying yes and no appropriately, all those things, you're not going to, in my experience, you're not going to implement fully anything else. So I believe that, yes, self awareness is the pinnacle, and within that, personal power is the pinnacle of that as well. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That is a very important thing what you're saying now, because um, if there is no this inner integration and inner sense of being strong and feeling your potential, um, it is very hard to go to it is very hard to go to the social skill work, conflict resolution, and even empathy.
Yeah,
Even then, empathy may become a bit toxic, because if you do not feel that inside, then mm, uh, you can be very much overwhelmed with the if you are an empathetic and sensitive person, it's very hard to regulate. Then where do you stop? What is your boundary?
mm,
How it's done, right, to regulate? I'm very much familiar with this, because I am as quite an empathetic person. I also did not know how to manage this, and I was very sensitive,
Me
and
too.
I'm still am. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is quite a challenge, and especially in today's world when we see that things are happening that are it's very hard, and yeah, and that is the pinnacle. That is the pinnacle is self-awareness. You have to be self-aware to be aware about your strength in a confidence strength, and then you apply it, whether it is whether in different spheres of emotional intelligence, and whether it's motivation or self-regulation when it comes to empathy and social skills. Yes, I
Yeah.
totally agree with you with this.
It's certainly. I've been doing this work now for 14 years, and I learn every single day. It's quite funny. I tell people all the time because I've won awards and all that sort of stuff, and that's all great. But for me, the reward is seeing the lives changed. But I tell people all the time,
Mm,
I'm a subject matter expert in social and emotional intelligence, but I'm a work in progress in its implementation every single day. Like when tech doesn't work, I still sometimes when technology doesn't work, I've got to, okay, Grant, practice what you teach. So for me, I love how with emotional intelligence, it doesn't matter how old you are, what stage of life you're at, you can start to develop these competencies. It definitely starts with self-awareness, and
mm,
it needs support and accountability so you can make that incremental change.
mm,
It's not a switch that a lot of times in organizations they'll want you to come in and do a session, and I say to them, well, that's great. The problem is it's not a switch we're not going to click. Oh, they don't have any emotional intelligence, now we're going to turn it on. It's reconditioning, getting rid of unhealthy conditioning. It's changing the algorithms, as you say. But yeah, I really, really love it. So I can't believe that our time's just about up. But just a very quick
yeah.
last question. It's gone so quick, and you and I'll have to jump on a Zoom call and have another chat.
Mm,
However, where do you see yourself? Because you've already in the last 9 years. I mean, um, you started ICF chapter in your country. The president. You've grown your practice. You're working in government. You're working in organisations. You're working with individuals. Where do you see yourself in this profession of emotional intelligence practitioner in a
mm,
year from now?
in a year,
Yeah.
I see myself assisting businesses in building puzzle of business to wellness. So for me, my personal experience was that years ago I was very ill, and then I explored the wellness world, and then I changed whole my lifestyle, and etc. I will not talk about this so much, but I had this experience. It gave me a lot, and I became much more after my wellness experience and this routine that I have built into my life. I became much more potent, much more so. First is self-awareness, but it has to be accompanied with um, nice physical health, right? And this is what also wellness is very much into the physical well-being. It concerns it. So what challenge does organizations now have, and is that you know they need effectiveness. Business needs to grow, business needs effectiveness. Yes, they grow, but the price is very high in the terms of wellness and well-being. Uh, and I would like to, help companies, which doing now as well. But I'm gonna expand this view, I think, to help them to build up both well-being and more ambitious goals and more effectiveness. That that wellness also helps in that, and to work with this paradigm. So it's a mindset shift actually that I'm talking now about, and then followed by different procedures, culture, and everything. So I'm gonna see a bit more of those cultures in 1 year.
Fantastic. I love that. And I'm finding the same thing. It's funny how going through a pandemic and now we've got unrest in the world, which we've had, in certain countries for many, many years. Finally, the conversation in organizations is finally recognizing that these emotional intelligence skills are the number one skills of an organization who wants to grow. We've known it for years because when you look at it logically, organizations, no matter how good technology gets, are built on people, and people are emotional beings. So
Mhm.
I'm really excited that I've had the opportunity to meet someone who's thousands of miles away from me in Georgia, who's doing exactly the same as what I'm doing. And we need more people, right? I have a goal, Ekaterine, that over the next year, that I'm going to develop another minimum of 100 emotional intelligence practitioners around the world, right?
Oh
I
wow.
have a I have a 10-year goal for that to be 1,000, right? So that's 100 a year. Now I'm going to exceed that goal because we need more emotional intelligence coaches and trainers right now. And that's what this group is all about. We've got them in here. So my whole purpose of this group is to be able to empower them. I'm 60 in a couple of months. I'm not
Oh.
I'm not going to my grave yet, but my lifestyle and my stage in my journey is changing. So now I'm looking to be able to help others to do what I've been blessed to be able to physically do emotional intelligence, social intelligence, training, coaching in 22 countries around the world, many, many more online. Over the
Mm.
last couple of years, last 3 years now, I've been running an emotional intelligence summit. I was doing it in person and COVID hit. Now, in the last 2 years, we have covered more people with that because we had to do it online. So, yeah, I'm rambling on a little bit now. Time's gone, but I just want to really, really thank you for stepping up and being our first interviewee, and hopefully you and I will get to continue to have chats. And if there was one thing, and we've gone a few minutes over, I apologize, but if there was one thing that you could encourage the other emotional intelligence practitioners in this group and those thinking about it with, what would it be?
Mm. You know, um, I would say to be more of the authentic self every day.
Love that.
For me, that is the most on this stage of my life. That is the best reminder and encouragement, and whether our coaches will also uh, like this, I will yeah be very happy that I have reminded myself and I have reminded others that being authentic unfolds the best of us as we are built our unique set of unique life that is happening inside us. So yeah, I would live with that.
I love that. Thank you so, so much once again for tuning in all the way from Georgia. And I look forward to being able to have many more conversations. And I look forward to interviewing many more coaches over the coming weeks and months. So thank you, Katerina. Katerine. I did it right all the way through and I bombed it at the end. I've been practicing all week. So
you are quite, yes, already very good at
but that's
pronunciation.
okay, because we're not perfect just because we're coaches, are we? We're allowed to make mistakes. So thank you so
Mhm.
much for joining us, and for everyone else here, thank you for joining us. If you're watching this in the replay, please give heaps of love to Ekaterine for stepping up. If there's any insights that she has given you, I'd love to hear about them. And we've got people thanking you here. And there's one here that was written in Georgian. I couldn't read it, but I'm sure you can, Ekaterine. So see you again in the group. Please, if you have questions about coaching, about anything in your practice, anything that people like Ekaterine and myself and others can help you with, that's what this group's for. Drop the comments in, and I look forward to having more conversations with you in the group. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep getting out there and helping us to increase the level of emotional intelligence in this amazing world. Okay, bye for now, gang.